Hello Sales Nation, I'm Will Barron, host of the Salesman Podcast. In this video, 5 of the world's leading sales and business experts share their thoughts on both account management and how to get more referrals from your customers. So let's jump right in.
Because you can't beat the third-party endorsement, you can't beat the transfer of enthusiasm, and that's what referrals are. Just like sales in general, it's somebody else's enthusiasm being transferred to someone else, and you can't manipulate that through an advert or any other form of marketing. In my opinion, there's nothing that beats it. I just think it's a great way to have a business. Everybody, it's the ultimate compliment when people are saying good things about you. It's enjoyable to follow up with prospects that have already expressed an interest, that have already heard about you. I just think it makes a lot, and you're building it based on the fact you're doing good work and your character and integrity. So I think it's ultimately I can't imagine why people would want to do something else. I suppose other things might be easier for a few people, but I also think that there's a lot of myth to that.
Yeah.
Even people that are very successful in business, it often surprises me how bad quite a lot of them are at referrals. And I'm not just saying that for self-serving purposes. It's just sometimes it's a bit of a myth in certain industries that the top people are all great at getting referrals. Some of them have just found other strategies to grow their business, and there's nothing wrong with that at all. But it's often not referrals. What's good about the topic of referrals is you don't have to be the best salesperson on the planet. You just need to be good at building relationships, because that's what's going to get you referred. So from that standpoint, it also makes it takes away some of the anxiety around sales. That's what I'm trying to say.
And there is some area of distinction where I think in English there's an advantage, and the confidence can refer to a self-confidence and a surety in self versus an extension of trust. But what I'd like to really highlight here is that at the end of the day, to have trust in a relationship, in a buyer-seller relationship, so if I'm a salesperson, I need to both be trustworthy, which I call credibility, that I have high credibility, and that includes a self-trust, a self-confidence, that I'm credible, that it's smart to trust me. So I need to be trustworthy, but I also need to be willing to extend the trust, to give trust. You got to give it to get it. And it's interesting because I've seen 2 trustworthy people working together, both trustworthy, but no trust in the relationship because neither party is willing to extend it to the other. So to have trust, you need to be both trustworthy, but also you need to be willing to give the trust, to extend the trust. And that's a key part of it. And so really, there's a lot of different ways we can think about trust, and sometimes we can get, wrapped around it and confused by it. But trust is confidence. It flows from having both character and competence. And a great way to think about it is to have trust in a relationship, in a selling situation. I need to be both trustworthy, that is credible, but I also need to be willing to give and extend trust, to trust my customer, to trust my prospect. And I'll tell you why that's so vital, Will. Is because there's a reciprocity of trust. And when you give it, people receive it and they return it. When you withhold it, they withhold it. I've worked with organizations all around the world. I find the number one reason why salespeople don't trust their sales leaders in many organizations is because, first and foremost, the leaders don't trust their salespeople. And then the salespeople reciprocate that distrust right back at the management. And the same thing can happen with suppliers, distributors, partners, even with customers. If you don't trust them, they tend to not trust you. But it works the other way too. When you do extend the trust, when you give it, people receive it, they return it. There is a reciprocity of trust, and it creates more. And so start with trust, focus on your trustworthiness, your credibility, but then also be willing to give and extend trust to others. And you'll watch, it will come back to you. It will become a virtuous upward cycle. You'll generate a reciprocity of trust. So that's kind of a simple way of thinking about trust, because we can get lost in a lot of different directions on this, but it's confidence. It comes from having character and competence, and to have it, to sustain it, to keep it, we need to be both trustworthy, but also we need to be willing to give it, to extend it to others.
I think LinkedIn, in theory, is a fantastic tool for salespeople, and particularly for generating referrals. I don't think it's a burden because I my experience, the vast majority of salespeople hardly use it at all, let alone effectively to get referrals. It can be a distraction. You can think you're busy on it, but in my experience, most of my clients have got a profile, if that, and they're spending very little time on LinkedIn. So I wouldn't class it as a distraction or a burden. I think it's a vastly underused resource that offers tremendous potential. People, particularly people who are more introvert, perhaps, or more lazy in other cases, let's be honest, are seeing social media as an excuse not to get out there. It's not. It's a tool that complements face-to-face relationship building. But you can't build relationships to the same depth purely by exchanging clicks and interactions online. You need to see the whites of people's eyes. If you engage with people, you can build relationships. If you sell to them, you won't. You know, if someone walks into a shop and a salesman says, do you want to buy this? Do you want to buy that? You know, as soon as they walk in, they're not going to sell. If someone walks into a shop and the salesman says, how are you today, sir? Have you had a good day? Have you, where have you been? What have you been up to? And builds a rapport, we all know that they're more likely to sell. And actually, where people get networking so wrong is they see networking as a route to sales. It is not. Networking is a route to building relationships. Through those relationships, you will sell more. But you don't sell to your network, you sell through your network. So build relationships with people who will shout about you, advocate on your behalf, give you market information, support you, give you referrals, and occasionally buy from you. But it's to sell, the ideal is to sell through your network, not to them.
You have to step back maybe 2 steps quickly, and you have to first start saying, and here's where you have a bit of a kind of iterative inward out approach, is you have to be very honest with yourself about saying, what are the problems that we're the best in the world at solving? And you have to not, BS or fool yourself or have wishful thinking. You have to be, what are we the very best at? And then you have to answer the question, who is it that has those problems? What sector or segment do they sit in? What kind of enterprise do they sit in? Are they gargantuan, multi-billion-dollar enterprises? Are they SMBs? Are they startups? Whatever. But who has those problems, from a sector, an industry point of view, a company, organizational point of view? And then within those companies, who are the people that have those problems? And they may have the problems, but manifest the problems differently. So the way a CFO might look at a problem may be very different than a VP of sales, VP of marketing, or so on. So once we have those questions, now we know who to target. We aren't going to waste our time going after people outside that sweet spot. And we know that, through research, whether they have that problem right now or likely to have that problem and so on and so forth. So now we can start being very focused and going and exploring with those customers, what are they trying to achieve? What are the problems they're having? And then how might we create value in helping them solve those problems? So, what you're doing, if you're going after people who aren't in your target spot, you're wasting a lot of time. You're wasting their time, you're wasting your time, and your probability of winning those people is very, very low. And also the magic, the way we produce results as salespeople and the way we create the most value for our customers is being very viciously focused on that sweet spot of these are the people that we can really help. And these are the guys that will want to buy what we do because we're the best in the world at solving that problem. So if I want to, for instance, increase my win rate, increase my average deal value, my deal margin, decrease my sales cycle from a pragmatic sales point of view, I want to focus viciously on those people because those are my customers. They're the people who want to buy because I can create value.
So it's interesting. For the longest time, I kind of wanted to move away from the term customer success because what does it mean? What does success mean? Is it ROI? Is it something else? And so I came up with a definition And I used to joke, this is just my definition, you do whatever you want. But now I'm kind of at the point where this is the definition. Customer success is when your customers achieve their desired outcome through their interactions with your company. And there's a lot to unpack in there. And if you just, I'll try to be quick with it. But the bottom line is desired outcome is the key element there. And what that means really is this. It's required outcome plus appropriate experience. Simply put, it's what they need to achieve their business outcome and the way they need to achieve it, the appropriate experience. If we understand that, it's so simple, such a simple concept, but so powerful, because that actually leads to everything from logical customer segmentation to the type of coverage that we're going to need with our customers. But I don't want to jump ahead too far, but desired outcome is such a key component. And I'll talk to you about sort of how that figures into the sales professional on the ground trying to close business in a second. The other piece is interactions. So customer success is when our customers achieve their desired outcome through their interactions with our company. I say, honestly, this stuff is all evolving. I'm evolving, I'm growing, I'm learning. I used to say, for a very short amount of time, but I will admit it, I said customer success is when our customers achieve their desired outcome through the use of our product. That's not true. It's through all of their interactions, and those interactions start early. They go across the entire customer life cycle, and they start with what happens in sales and what happens in marketing and what happens when they go to actually make the purchase, and of course onboarding, and all across the 1, 3, 5, 7, 10 years that they're going to be our customer. But we have to understand that the seeds of churn are planted early, and often that can happen in the sales process. And I think the bottom line is it starts with this understanding of what customer success is and goes from there. A lot of times in sales, we close the deal and we move on, and we never really think about what happens with the customer. And I think that's a trait of a large portion of sales professionals out there.